Hi everyone, due to some circumstances, I'm going to be the voice in today's video. Thanks for your understanding. Picture a modern blockbuster without any special effects. Most likely, you will fail, because CGI has long been an integral part of modern action movies. Nevertheless, we found scenes from famous films that were shot live without a green screen, and they look no worse than scenes made by computer. Would you like to see them? Then, let's get it on. Inception. The film Inception was released in 2010, but still fascinates many with its plot, concepts, and of course, special effects. Much of the filming was done on location, all because of Christopher Nolan's concept of realistic sleep. For example, the first time Ellen Page enters the dream world, when the streets literally begin to explode, was shot in the heart of Paris. Even the avalanches were filmed live, without CGI. Nolan is known for his cautious attitude towards digital technology, so all the scenes that could be shot without SFX were done so by hand. So a 35-meter-long rotating corridor was built in a huge hangar, and the actors were filmed running inside it. 2 cameras were used to capture what was happening, and in order to prevent the viewer from feeling the scenery was moving, one camera was fixed on the spot and the other was placed on a crane and remained stationary thanks to a gyroscope. And the effort definitely paid off. Another cool scene is the endless staircase scene, which was shot in a modern building on the outskirts of London. After experimenting with different models, it became clear that the so-called Penrose stairs looked realistic on the screen only from certain angles and using certain lenses. So, the camera was placed on a 15-meter crane to hide the gap between the upper and lower levels of the stairs. Another memorable scene is the car chase in Los Angeles. The train that suddenly burst onto the road, in fact, was a tractor trailer enclosed in a casing made from plexiglass and metal elements. And the traces on the asphalt were computer generated. Spectre. Explosions in James Bond films are pretty common. You might even say they are routine. Every 007 movie needs a good explosion.
My name is Bond.
Bond. Bond. Bond.
James Bond.
However, Spectre stands out when compared to other spy movies. At a press conference in Beijing, it was announced that the 24th film about the adventures of James Bond entered the Book of Records for the biggest explosion in the history of cinema. Of course, Avengers movies have had better explosions, but in Spectre, they didn't use CGI. The incredible explosion was filmed on June 29, 2015 at Erfoud, Morocco. Pyrotechnic experts used 8,418 liters of fuel and 33 kilograms of explosives to create the explosion. The process was coordinated by Chris Corbold, special effects expert. And by the way, unlike most characters that look away from the explosion to show off, in Spectre, Craig and Seydoux watched quite carefully how the scenery exploded.
3, 2, 1, action!
After all, you don't see impressive Guinness records every day. Furious 7. Furious 7 was released in 2015, and of course, the creators tried to surprise the audience with new, crazy car stunts because that is exactly what the franchise is famous for. Many stunts are shot live, but when they do turn to CGI, only few elements are computer generated. For example, in this film, the creators decided to throw a car out of an airplane. The producers wanted to use CGI to draw the whole scene, but stunt coordinator Jack Gill had other plans. The preparations took several months. The cars were thrown out of a military plane flying at an altitude of 3.5 kilometers, free-falling for over half the way. There were cameras mounted on planes, on helicopters hovering nearby, on the ground, on the helmets of 3 skydivers that jumped after the cars, and on the cars too, of course. It was difficult, but the result was worth all the effort.
Everybody make it out!
Although, of course, the jump scene between skyscrapers overshadowed the rest of the stunts, despite being made with CGI. By the way, this stunt is not so unreal. Pierce College professor Lee Loveridge made some calculations and proved that the technical characteristics of the car and the distance between the buildings would have made it possible to perform the trick in real life. The Matrix Reloaded. The world premiere of the sci-fi action movie The Matrix Reloaded took place in Los Angeles in May 2003. Many people were waiting for the sequel to The Matrix, a film that already had a cult status among movie lovers. As a result, the movie became a global hit, earning $742 million in the box office with a $150 million budget. Of course, the film had a huge number of special effects, but you can find scenes that were shot live. For example, the crazy car chase at the end of the movie. These scenes were shot on a closed highway in Australia. The filmmakers built a 2.5-kilometer long highway, and General Motors provided more than 300 cars, 38 of which were specially equipped to perform the stunts. This 16-minute exciting chase scene was filmed over a period of 3 months. Of course, for safety reasons, many vehicles were removed from the oncoming traffic lane and then added later with CGI. Now, remember the scene when the two trucks crash into each other? On set, the filmmakers collided 2 full-size vehicles using a winch and a 500-horsepower engine. However, the final cut only included 1 second of footage. Everything else was computer-generated. Mad Max Fury Road. Of course, we can't talk about incredible scenes shot live without mentioning Mad Max Fury Road, right?
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
After all, this film is famous for its large number of action stunts and tricks made with minimal use of CGI. Fire, dust, explosion, sand, some absolutely incredible vehicles. Mad Max Fury Road has all this and more. The production of more than 300 stunts was conducted by Australian expert Guy Norris, and more than 100 unique cars were designed and built for the shoot. Despite the large amount of computer-generated details, the filmmakers chose to shoot all the scenes on location before reworking and embellishing them. For example, the explosion during the final chase was real. It was shot in the desert, and then other cars and mechs were added. The car was blown up using gas cylinders. The explosion was, of course, shot remotely, and the scene was quite complicated due to the risk. It was an explosion after all. As a result, it was decided not to retouch the scene. The result was realistic and cool enough for a movie. In general, the shooting of Mad Max Fury Road was a very large-scale project. More than 1,700 people worked on the film, with an average of about 1,000 people around at all times. In total, up to 150 stuntmen were working on the set at the same time. And here's what Charlize Theron said about the film. There were these amazing moments when you see what the stunt people were doing around you that you weren't prepared for. The work on the wires and poles they were doing in the fight sequences, while you were actually driving the war rig. You realize you're really in a world. There's no CGI. There's no green screen. The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is ranked 4th in the list of the 250 best movies in history on IMDb. Many magazines, as well as the writer Stephen King, have named The Dark Knight the best superhero film ever. Overall, Nolan created a powerful and memorable film. Like any superhero movie, The Dark Knight had many special effects, but some scenes were shot live, and damn, those scenes are awesome. For example, the hospital explosion. Unlike similar moments in other films, a real-life-sized building was blown up for the scene. The filmmakers were allowed to blow up a Chicago building that was going to be demolished. The scene was shot in IMAX. However, something went wrong in the process and the series of explosions stopped for a few seconds. At this point, the filmmakers probably began to swear very loudly because it would cost a lot of money to film it again, blowing up another building. But Heath Ledger saved the day by giving us one of the best improvisations in the history of cinema. Another amazing scene included the Joker and an 18-wheeled semi-trailer flipping over right in the middle of the street. It's hard to imagine how anyone would be able to make a scene like this without CGI, but you know, it's Nolan. He just flipped over a huge truck right in the middle of Chicago, with the help of expert technicians and a pneumatic lever with the power to toss up a multi-ton car. First, they practiced the stunt in a vacant lot, and then when everything was ready, they blocked a street in Chicago and repeated the trick there. By the way, the car was not driven remotely. There was a stuntman sitting behind the wheel the whole time. 28 Days Later. The film 28 Days Later is one of the 100 best British films ever. It is considered a cool horror film, and it's kind of a game of Second Life to the zombie genre. According to the story, 28 days after the beginning of the epidemic, the main character played by Cillian Murphy wakes up in an empty hospital and goes out on the streets of London. Most of today's movies would have used studio sets and computer graphics for all these locations, but Danny Boyle preferred real-life shots. For example, the hospital shown in the picture actually exists and is still functioning. However, it's only open on weekdays. The hospital managers rented out the rooms for the weekend to the creators of the film, and they paid them directly so that all the money would be spent on the needs of the hospital. For the scenes shot in London, the local police blocked the streets at 4 a.m. for 1 hour. Of course, even at 4 a.m. in the morning, you can still be a burden to the residents. So, the cutest workers on set, including the daughter of the director, were responsible for talking to any unhappy people. Drivers and passerbys were always friendly to them. Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. It's no secret that Tom Cruise prefers to perform all his movie stunts on his own. His perseverance and dedication can only be envied, but we still feel sorry for the directors and insurance companies that work with him. After all, they are the ones who have to talk Cruise out of performing some crazy stunt that can put his life and health at risk. Ghost Protocol was no exception, and Tom Cruise himself climbed the walls of the Burj Khalifa Tower. It was a real skyscraper, not a computer-generated one, and Cruise had to train for months to perform this stunt.
3, 2, 1.
Moreover, the Burj Khalifa was real in all the scenes. Even all the windows destroyed by the characters in the movie were from the famous building. Of course, the owners of the building were shocked when they were told that the skyscraper was going to be slightly damaged, but the film crew managed to convince them anyway.
Psst, dude, are you looking for new technologies and great gadgets? Are your thoughts focused on the future? Do you love huge vehicles and can't imagine your life without robots around you? Then visit TechZone and you'll find all this and more. The link is in the description. You interested? Great.